Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. You know the drill. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so we get all things DutyRon. And there it is, Ed's notification. When we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight we're going to go over day 10 and day 11 in the Karen Reed trial. This gets worse as the days go on because more buffoonery, more forensics mistakes. We heard it all. I listened today with an earpiece. I was running around. Ed, your thoughts on day 10 and 11? We were going to go live last night, but we said, let's see what happens tomorrow. And holy shiitake mushrooms, did a lot happen today.
Oh yeah, between yesterday and today, it was like I didn't think it could get worse after Lieutenant Gallagher, but it did. It's like this is like gang that couldn't shoot straight. Okay, and I mean, the whole world is watching this, and in my community, in the forensic community, internationally, the United States is becoming a laughingstock. It's just mind blowing, I just can't wrap my arms around the decision making here. I mean, it's just only one or two choices here. It's incompetency and something even more sinister.
Yeah, and that's the scary part, is that the more we watch, the more troubling it gets. And look, we're only on day 11, completion of day 11. We saw two witnesses today. Trooper Keefe and Jessica Hyde. That's the digital forensics examiner. And she really took up the bulk of the day. At times, it was really difficult to listen to because although she seemed very knowledgeable, she kept stepping all over and talking over the prosecutor and the defense. And that's never a good look, no matter how smart you are and how well you present yourself. Ed, you know this.
Yeah, it's
very bad.
It's embarrassing for a professional to do what she did. She was, the talking over and to start talking about things before the question was complete. Oh, I know where you're going there, and not letting it's totally unprofessional for a subject matter expert to do what she did today.
And you notice something else too that maybe many people didn't necessarily pick up on, but maybe some did. She kept saying Roger that and 10-4, like all of this police jargon. She was using the stuff that you're not supposed to use when you're talking to a jury. You're not talking to a classroom. You're not talking to the police or the prosecutor's office who hired you. You're talking to the people, and you need to speak in layman's terms, right, Ed?
Well, you do, but you don't want to insult the jury either. Like when I train my police officers, don't use military time. Don't do the police jargon. All right. Don't use 10 codes or any of that stuff. Speak in common English. Right.
Right.
But that one section of her testimony where, she's trying to explain the technical aspects of where things are being stored. And she uses an example of the restaurant and food and how it's being served and ordered and cooked. For me, maybe just me, but I found it a little condescending, so it seemed to me she was, talking down to the jury as if they couldn't pick this up. And the jury, for what I've been hearing, is a young jury. Right. It's not an older jury. So they may be more tech savvy than she gave them credit for.
Look at what Kitty KU says. I forgot about that. She said, "May the 4th be with you," because she remembered the date it was, come on. Anyway,
come on. So she's a Star Wars, geek.
I get it. And she talked about pizza with pepperoni. Anyways, here, I want to say thank you to the moderators, the replay viewers, our Patreon supporters. Ed, a lot of people are trying to keep us caffeinated. See, they're buying us cups of coffee. So Ed and I thank you for buying us the cups of coffee and supporting us off and on YouTube. So thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate it. Let's listen to the recap from today. It's just a short one. This is 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
At the center of Karen Reed's retrial again today, a Google search on the phone of her friend Jennifer McCabe. The question was about how long it takes to die in the snow.
State says the search happened after the body was found, though the defense will argue otherwise. As NBC 10's Katie Benoit reports live from court in Dedham. Katie?
Jean Patrice, the jury got to see more evidence found at the Canton crime scene. Now, only 2 witnesses testified today.
Trooper, is that the same item that you found that night?
Yes, sir.
State Trooper Connor Keefe taking John O'Keefe's sneaker out of an evidence bag. It was found outside 34 Fairview in Canton by the Special Emergency Response Team. Keefe was also at the victim's autopsy. Prosecutors allege Karen Reed fatally struck O'Keefe with her SUV. Her defense claims a police cover-up.
You didn't see any bruising on his arm, correct?
I don't recall.
Jessica Hyde, a forensics expert, took the stand to testify about when Jennifer McCabe's Hoslong to die in cold search happened.
Is that search occurred at 6:24 a.m. and was the last search in the tab that had been opened at 2:27.
Hyde added the search was not deleted by a user. On cross-examination, the defense asked about testimony from the first trial and prior reports.
You did read it correctly.
So as of May 2023, you said the definitive reason as to why the timestamp is listed as 2:27:40 is unknown.
And to wrap up day 11, this clip was played for the jury.
It's me or her. Either I'm going down, Jen, or you are.
This is what Reed had to say right after.
Quick hold.
I'll have more of a reaction when you hear the whole thing in context.
Guys,
that was 7 seconds because there was a lot of context.
Well, tell us more.
What did you mean then?
Here we go. Give him a little pause. If he stops to talk,
You'll see.
He doesn't let him go.
The
Please.
case is almost over.
Be careful. They got briefcases. I don't want anyone to trip and break anything.
Now, we don't know who will be called tomorrow, but it's possible it could be another member of law enforcement. And I asked Karen Reed's dad outside of court if he thinks he'll be called. He said, quote, "I hope I am."
Ed, I wanted to ask you because I don't want to go out of order here. I know that, we still have to talk about the previous day, day 10, because a lot happened. There was a lot of witnesses. I have them written down here. There's 6 of them. We're not going to talk about the meteorologist much. We know that he was on for the state, for the Commonwealth, to prove that it was, yes, in fact, a very bad day. But we know from seeing the one and only video by Lieutenant Gallagher, and I'm embarrassed to keep repeating this, with the leaf blower and the solo cups, and memorializing it with his sergeant taking a video of a lieutenant. It's just, to me, it just gets worse and worse as the days go on. But Ed, I wanted to ask you real quick. I see you have a comment highlighted. How bad of a look is it when you have a state trooper, Massachusetts state trooper, on the stand, obviously a rookie at the time when this investigation was going on? He was partnered up with Trooper Proctor, disgraced Massachusetts state trooper Proctor, and he is now becoming combative with the defense and saying he doesn't recall.
Yeah, it was not a good look for him. Okay. He wasn't combative with the prosecution on direct, but he became very combative with the defense attorney, and there was no reason for it. There was no need for it. He was kind of taken back when he was questioned about if he was present during the interview of Nurse Sarah by Proctor. And he said, no, I wasn't there. But it seemed like, unbeknownst to him, Proctor put his name in the report that he was present, because according to Mass State Trooper protocol, when you're interviewing somebody, there has to be at least 2 troopers present. And so, he had to have his memory refreshed by reading the report, but I don't think his memory was refreshed at all. I'm getting the sense that he wasn't really there, and Proctor just put his name in the report, and because he was kind of taken back by it. Right. Then he got very defensive. Okay, he got very defensive. Now he went to the autopsy. Okay, he went to the autopsy and he listened and witnessed the medical examiner perform the autopsy. How does he not know the injuries on the arm?
Right. And we've been to many autopsies. I've been the first officer on the scene many times. And what is the next assignment when you're the first officer on the scene. The next morning you go to the morgue, and that's when they're doing the autopsy. So you make the ID. You don't forget those things, and you don't forget them because it's something that's in your mind that you can't. It's hard to forget that, but you remember it for the victims and their families when it comes to trial, whether it's a year from now, 5 years from now. Ed, you testified at 399 trials as an expert for the defense and prosecution, right? Both sides.
Yeah.
You remember these things. And if you have to, like you said, you prep yourself. You know you're getting called to the stand. Trooper Keefe, you know you're being called to the stand. Review your case notes. Review the work you did. That's not cheating. You're allowed to do that, right, Ed?
I mean, he got so petty, he wouldn't even admit that someone more senior to him that had more time on the job had more experience than him. I mean, that's how petty he got. Now, when you're at an autopsy, he wouldn't even give the defense attorney an answer to the fact was the doctor examining the body.
Right.
And when they're examining the body, they're being recorded. There's usually a microphone nearby, and they're reporting all of their findings, and they're talking and describing the wounds and what kind of wounds they are, the size and shape, and how they were potentially made. All of that is being dictated into a recording so that the medical examiner can then use that to prepare the finished post-mortem examination, the report that she's going to issue. Now, he wouldn't even answer those simple questions. It became combative. Now, not only that, he was brought to the crime scene by Lieutenant Tully of the Mass State Police, okay? And he was tasked with documenting and collecting and bagging and packaging all the evidence that was found by the search team, okay? But yet there is no logs. There are no proper photographs of all the evidence and where it was. Okay. There's no long range. There's no medium range. There's no close-up with and without scales and numbers. There's none of that. Okay. There's no crime scene entry log there, to document who came and went. There's no chain of custody log. Nothing, no logs, and none of the proper photographs to establish where everything is so everybody can see how everything was laid out at the scene. You don't have any of that. And then he opens the bag today in court, and there's supposed to be a certain amount of pieces of quote unquote the taillight. And then to their surprise, there's more pieces than what was said on the bag.
Right.
Okay. I mean, it's like these people don't know what they're doing. Okay. I'd like to break that down, though. I'd like to go back to yesterday and the lieutenant from the Mass State Police search team, the CERT team, and talk about what they did and try to figure out why they were there, because they shouldn't have been there.
Right. But before we do that, Ed, I want to, and I don't want to break up the continuity of this. I have another little piece of media that I do want to play, but a lot of people in the chat are asking a lot, not just a few, a lot. And you had a comment up and I took it down by mistake. We do that often, but a lot of people in the chat are asking, are you shoveling snow tonight? What's happening behind you, Sir?
Okay. So what I got behind me are some of my crime scene equipment, my personal crime scene equipment that I use for the snow. Okay. I have a clean shovel. Okay. That I have to clean and document. I have a log for that shovel, and I have a broom. Here's the broom. There's the shovel. Okay. Then I have evidence numbers and then evidence flags and string. You can see that behind me. And hold on, I'll grab some stuff.
What's the number 10 there, Ed, in the background? The number.
This is an evidence number. Okay. All right. And it has a little, I have the ability to put a flag through it to mark them out and stick that flag deep into the ground.
What if wind was blowing, Ed, and how would you secure that from having it blow out? Would you put sandbags around it? What would you do? Goes in
with
the ground?
this, if you shove this into the ground through the number, it's going to hold it in place. Okay. And some of these are weighted too. They have little weights on the bottom of them to keep them around. All right. I have
a way to do evidence collection in inclement weather, my friends.
Right. I have the broom. I have, when you're excavating soil or snow, these are some of the tools you use to gather up the snow. Okay. And if you're going to do that, get into the minutia that deep. Otherwise, you use the shovel and a clean 5-gallon bucket. Now the shovel, as I said, I have logs for the broom, logs for the shovel, because I have to clean it. And when I clean it, I then rinse it with water, capture that deionized water off the shovel and seal it in a chemically certified clean chemical jar. And then I can have that tested in a GC mass spec to show that the shovel is in fact clean. There's no contaminants on it. Okay. And then I bag the shovel head so that that area remains clean. The same thing with the broom. Okay. Then I have.
Jay-Z just asked, you mean you don't use a leaf blower, Ed?
No, we don't use a freaking leaf blower. Then I have my 200-foot tapes. I have several of these. Again, even with this, and I pull it out, I have to clean this. Every time I pull it out, I have to clean it again when I put it away. And I have to document that I, in fact, did that for its integrity. Then I have new unopened tarps. Let me explain how this works, okay? They called the search team, some search team. Why didn't they call the crime scene? Why didn't Lieutenant Telly from the Mass State Police call the crime scene unit? He
especially when you have a dead police officer on someone's front lawn, and put John O'Keefe aside. If he was not a police officer, not a Boston police officer, you'd still do these things. I'm just amplifying it because you have police. You have police who live in that home. You have 34 Fairview, Brian Albert. You have the chief of detectives that lives across the street. Are you kidding me?
In the audience, in the chat, we have one of my students and one of my good friends, and he's a great detective, Detective White. He's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You might have seen him if you watched the first 48 or 48 hours of because they were doing all that real-time crime shows, and he was a part of it. And so I know he's going to back me up here. How we handle this. We get the 911 dispatch call. Law enforcement's responding to the scene. The first officer gets there. He sees the 3 women. He should have taken control of these women and say, stay right here. Okay. He should have then started rendering aid on that victim. Now, when the other officers come, then one officer stays with these victims and starts to interview them. Another may help him with rendering aid until EMS gets there. Once EMS gets there, they take over. If more law enforcement officers come, you send them up to the Albert's front door, find out what the hell is happening, ring the doorbell, check the doorknob. And in this case, if they would have checked the doorknob, the door would have opened, and then go in and check on their well-being. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they are well, then you interview them and say, you got a dead guy in front of your lawn. What was happening here tonight? What was going on? That person should have been, the Alberts, the husband and wife should have been immediately interviewed. Okay.
Everybody inside that house, even if
that's right.
Adult.
That's right.
There was a party there, right? Remember,
right.
There was a party, I believe, for a 20th birthday or 21st birthday, whatever it was, for one of their kids, and there were young adults there, and anybody that slept over or that was in that house should have been woken up and immediately interviewed. That's how it goes.
Everything needs to be documented, because if you didn't write it down, as we see here, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Okay, and then you should make observation of the Alberts in their house. How are they? Are they drunk? Are they okay? Do they have any injuries? Who is here? Get a list of the people that were at the house. Okay, then you call the detectives.
Right. Any bruised knuckles?
Yeah. Where's the dog? You call the detectives. You notify the detectives. Have them respond. Now, once they come, you then drop back to safeguarding the scene and protecting everything and document everything, who's coming and who's going. Then the detectives start to canvass the neighborhood and start interviewing the neighbors and seizing or trying to obtain with consent ring videos or security footage videos and so forth. Now, none of that was done. Okay, none of that was done. And he keeps saying, well, it was an unintended incident or unintended death
said
or whatever he was called. Medical situation here. No, it was a potential assault where the victim was likely to die. Okay.
And to add injury, Lieutenant Gallagher said, when questioned about the Arlo camera on the chief of detectives who lives across the street of 34 Fairview, he said, I know for a fact it doesn't record the road because when I have to be the gopher and go get his packages, him and I have discussed the camera and what it covers, which I call bullshit on that, major league bullshit, because then the defense, I believe it was Alan Jackson, asked him, so you didn't pull any of the video based on what your knowledge is? Where's to take your word that camera didn't record anything that night?
And you can't take his words because he doesn't know what he's doing. In fact, I insulted Bonnie Fife yesterday when I called him a Bonnie Fife. All right. Bonnie Fife is sharper than him. Okay. That said, yeah, you can't trust that. You can't trust that. You can't trust when he went into the Albert's house and he didn't do nothing but look around with his eyes. Okay. Detective should have came out, started canvassing, called the crime scene unit. My unit would have responded out there, or their equivalent should have responded out there and taken control of the scene. A temporary headquarters vehicle should have rolled out on there. A command vehicle, the crime scene vehicle, lights should have been brought out there, and a proper crime scene search conducted. And that's what I want to talk about here, because Tully and this guy that was on the stand today, okay, they went out there and Tully put this young trooper in charge of documenting and collecting the evidence that was found by the search team. One, the search team did a line search, and that's not the search that should be done in a snow-covered front lawn and street looking for evidence. Two, the scene should have been photographed with overall photographs before the search was conducted. Okay. Three, that the photographs should consist of long range, medium range, and close-ups from all different angles. Okay. Then once that's all done, they back up. Now, the scene should have been gridded, depending on the size of tents that they should have brought there. Not his personal tent, but a clean crime scene tent. Ron, can you bring up the grid?
Yes, just give me 2 more seconds. 2 seconds.
Okay, so you're going to grid that whole front lawn from the driveway all the way down past the flagpole. Okay. Now, the grid size is going to be determined by the size of the tent, right? Because you're going to make these square grids in the size of the tent to cover certain areas, right? And there's where you come with clean, new, that's your tent. Okay. And I don't want to hear no shit about it's windy out, because you can strap that tent down with rope and pegs and secure it so it doesn't move. And the feet come with weights that you can put at the bottom of the tent to weigh it down so it doesn't blow away. Okay. Right. So you're going to do a 10 by 10 grid or 12 by 12 grid, depending on the size of the pop-up tent. I prefer to use a 12 by 12 pop-up crime scene tent that has 4 sides on it and so forth. Then, okay, now on the base, you're not going to leave that tent directly onto the snow. You're going to put a tarp base on there underneath it to have a clean work area, and it's going to be lit and it's going to be heated. Okay. Then you're going to take your string and your stakes and you're going to plot out the grid. Okay.
Can we see the string and the stakes? Ed, string and stakes.
Yeah. String and stakes.
Can we see that back again? People want to see it. String and stakes.
Get your tent pegs and string, or
there you go.
You have multicolor strings. All right. And you grid out the scene. Can you show the photo of the grid?
Okay, was that in that same email?
There was 2 emails I sent you. So
right. So the grid is not in that first email.
It's in the next one.
Yep. Give me a second. Stop breathing down my neck.
Oh, come over here. I'm going to smack you in your head.
Hey, watch it. Watch it, Wallace.
Terry Burke, is that you in the chat? Is that my friend Terry Burke?
Where's the grid? Which?
You'll see it. You'll see a diagram of a grid.
I do not see it. Hold on. Let me look at the second one. Funnel, IS stock photo. Oh, got it. Got it.
Okay.
Wallace.
There's your grid. Okay. Those grids, those squares are the same size of your tent. So here's how this worked. What they did is a line search. So they lined up all their troopers on one edge, say that right side of the grid, and they walked across snow, looking and moving the snow around. That's not how you do this. You grid this out. You put your tent. You have your working tent on the outside of one of these grids. Okay. Then you have your PPE put on, and your team will go into the first grid. Say the first grid is that bottom right corner. So your tent is just to the right of that bottom right corner. It's all set up. Inside your tent, you have your tables, your lights, your heaters, and your sifting equipment. That's right, sifting equipment. There's so many different types. We'll talk about that later. You send your search team into that grid, right? Now, before you do all of this has to be all photographed. You have to, after you do the overalls, then you do the overalls again, showing the grid, and then you take out your 3D laser scanner and scan everything. Okay? Now, you send your team in with 5 5-gallon buckets and clean shovels. They dig up the snow, put it in the buckets, and transfer it into the tent, where they'll take the snow and sift the snow. At this point, I'm going to show you some sifters. Here's one. That's a simple screen sifter. Okay. That's a single one. Okay. And that you'd have to do over like a clean wheelbarrow, so that whatever comes through gets captured in the wheelbarrow and whatever. And the grids come in different sizes. I don't prefer that for this technique. Let's go to one of the others.
And this, Ed, none of this was done on this.
Okay. I prefer something like this. These are 3 different grids, 3 different sizes. Okay. With the smallest size being at the top and going down to, the other way around, with the smallest size going down. And then you sift back and forth. It will go through, and based on the size of any items that were in that snow, then it gets trapped in those screens. And then you photograph it, bag it, tag it, and get it off the screens, clean the screens. Okay. And then capture the snow that comes through. Then you melt that snow, and then you filter that melted snow using a filter funnel, or you could use this system as well. You could put that snow in there, and it'll go through the top layer and then get melted in the bottom container. And then you pour it out, and it gets filtered as it comes out. Then you pull the filter out, and you check the filter to see if any hairs and fibers, say like dog hairs, are in there. Okay. Whereas we saw the snow blower, the leaf blower that he was using, he could have blown the dog hairs, if there were any dog hairs, into the neighbor's next yard. Okay. All right. Now you can show that photo of the snow
with the blood.
Yeah.
Just a little disclaimer. We're going to be showing you a little blood in the snow, guys.
Okay. I mean, they didn't photograph the blood trail that was there. I mean, this photograph here suggests to me angle impact on the snow going from left to right. Okay. And so there was no analysis of the drops that they saw in the snow. Go to
I just want people to know that are watching right now. Ed is a crime scene expert. Okay. He's a forensic CSI expert. He did this for a living for over 20 years, 25 years. Ed also, in his retired life, teaches this. So the reason we're going over this in this first 29 minutes of the show is to show you guys what should have been done in the murder of police officer John O'Keefe. We're showing you things that should have been done, and you can compare this to what we're being presented with as the days go forward, because there's going to be more jagaloon buffoonery that we're going to hear about. And we heard about it in yesterday's all of day yesterday and today. It continued today.
Yeah.
So, all right, what's the next one that you want up?
Show some of the other sifters. Now, folks, you need to bring your alternate light source out there, and you need to bring a thermal imager, and you need to bring a metal detector, okay? And search those areas. Now, once you dig up all that snow off of that first grid, so here's another filter system that you could use where the screen is to the bottom right, and then it's a big funnel, and you put it into a container that will then be able to grab the liquid snow, and when the snow melts, it'll turn into water, and then you pour it into that and filter it, and then check the screen for what was trapped in there, hairs and fibers, whatever. None of this was done. Now, when you're done with that first grid, after you did a thorough, you dug up all the snow and you checked down to the grass, and you checked around the grass with your forensic light sources and so forth, then you clean up your tent and you slide down to the next grid, staying on the outside perimeter. And then you do complete that whole row from bottom right to left. And then once you complete that row, then you move your tent into that first grid area and go from left to right, moving the second layer. And then again, and this is how you would also photograph the depth of the snow. Okay, so you could see how deep the snow is, right? And then the next photo shows you how you photo. Well, that's another filter. Right. Yes, this photo, that's another filter that you would put like a large coffee type filter in it and screen any melted snow through that, and it will capture and release the liquid. This is how you document those blood drops. Did we see any photos like this?
Negative.
No.
We saw nothing. The only thing we saw was a video memorializing Lieutenant Gallagher being a fool and using a leaf blower to blow snow away. That's the only thing we saw.
This could have been collected frozen like this. It could have been collected frozen, scooped out with a special spoon, and put into a certified clean jar or sterile jar, depending on what they had. And then you have to keep it frozen. Because if it's frozen, you keep it frozen, right? Or there's another method that you could do too, is you can put a little deionized water on a swab and swab up that blood into the swab, then dry that swab and stick it into its paper packaging or the appropriate packaging for the swab. No, for all intents and purposes, I didn't hear them use a tool. So they must have taken the solo cup and just scooped up the blood and the snow into the solo cup, putting more snow than blood in the cup. And they didn't seal it. They didn't keep it frozen. So eventually all that snow is going to melt and dilute all that blood. Now that blood was never tested. All right. There's no chain of custody for it. There's no date and time stamp as to when they collected it. All right. I don't know if that individual changed gloves in between each blood spot that was collected. They're supposed to. Okay. There's no integrity to the cups because you got it from the lieutenant squad commander across the street that didn't come out to help or look at anything or provide the video from his Ring camera. No one knows where the shopping shop bag came from, so we don't. The integrity of that bag, we have no clue.
It's insanity. It's insanity.
Yeah.
And I want to just give you a break so you can catch your breath. I know you're on a roll right now, but I want to say thank you to the moderators. They're doing a great job. And thank you to everyone that's in the chat sending us questions. A couple of super chats came in, and Amy says the blood drops looked like Kool-Aid. I'm not buying it based on his injuries. It would have been a bloody snow bath. You know, she brings up a good point here, Ed, because as we hear, the defense describes John O'Keefe, and I never had an opportunity to look at the crime scene photos, not the crime scene, the photos from the medical examiner's office. I don't think that they were made public, but I think that they are out there. But the defense described John O'Keefe looking like he was beat to a pulp. And her comment here is, how could he have been beaten outside there to a pulp That's what brings us to the theory of that he was beaten in that basement or somewhere inside the home, and that is the reason why a lot of people are speculating on that Brian Albert refused to come out and refused to let anybody come in his home and search around. Like, in other words, if it was you or I and that happened, and I bring this up often, we would be like, come into my house. Here, I'll sign. I'll give you, come in and search around. Clear my home. Clear my house. Interview whoever you want, because I got nothing to do with it. But that didn't happen here, folks.
Well, Lieutenant Gallagher in his testimony drove me, my head was exploding. Everything he did exploded my head. He was conflicted out. It seems like most of the Canton PD was conflicted out, and a lot of the Mass State Police that were involved in this investigation should have been conflicted out of this case, okay, because of their incestuous relationships in that town. Like I said, it's copland here. This is copland.
Everything's intertwined. Everybody's
right.
intertwined.
And who's related to who? This is like, what is it? 7 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. Everybody is commingled here. Okay. Yeah. And apparently this town, there must be a lot of DWIs in this town, because they all love to drink. Okay. And they all love to get hammered.
And they love to get in cars and drive. TG sends in $100. Thank you for the generous super chat. He or she says, I believe that you both are key to explaining to the public what's happening here. You are experts with deep, deep law enforcement experience, and you're calling out what you see. Thank you. You should be getting interviewed everywhere on Boston's News and across YouTube. Well, we are on our show, on our YouTube channel, which has a reach of 482,000 subscribers, and we're shouting this out loud from the rooftops. So I thank you for the support. I thank everybody here for the support. There's so many new members. Jen became a member. Teresa became a member. Tracy, thank you for becoming a new YouTube member. Chewbarca, thank you for becoming a member. CRR, new member. Look at all these new members. Farty Marty sends in a super chat. Even Farty Marty is getting into it. Ed's adorable. His geekness is infectious.
Remember, folks, what did I tell you about me? I get paid to be anal.
Oh, geez. Did you have to say that again? Monique Preciado, thank you. They're attempting to muddy the waters, sabotage. Thank you for the $2 super chat. And Linfant says, and sends in a $10 super chat and says, question, why wouldn't any cop, especially a rookie, witnessing their first fallen law enforcement officer autopsy details forever be embedded? Yeah. And 2, why no one brings out investigations protocol book, whatever it's called? And then 3, I love your show. This is a great super chat, a great message, Ed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, La Infant.
Yeah, La Infant.
It's like La Infant Plaza down in Washington, D.C.
Those are 2 very good questions. Terrence, there he is, Terrence Burke.
This is my friend. Okay.
Terry, thanks for joining.
All right. Yeah, there's just so much that officer, though, what, I just don't get why he got so defensive. And, they looked at, the jury had to see that. They had to recognize that his demeanor switched, like someone hit a light switch when the defense started questioning him. And that look that, the jurors saw that and they said, well, something's wrong with this guy. Okay. Like I told you, like you said to the audience, I train all over the world. I have international students of mine that are calling me and asking me, is it really that bad? Is it really that bad in the United States? Your crime scene protocols, you're not following international standards?
Joe, Lieutenant Cardinale called me right before we were getting ready to go live. And he was like, guys, I'm so glad you're talking about this. He went on News Nation tonight. I don't know who he was with. I forgot who he said hosted him, but he went on to News Nation and he's like, this is the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen. And it involves a off-duty police officer. And Joe is a career investigator.
Squad commander.
Yeah, he's a squad commander. He rose to the ranks in the NYPD and retired as a lieutenant. And he's looking at this other lieutenant and other lieutenants from the state police, and his mind, he said, Ron, tell Ed, my mind is blown by what I'm seeing here. And he didn't follow the trial last year. So he didn't have the advantage of seeing Karen Reed trial 1.0. He's seeing 2.0. So it's crazy. Lori, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. KH, thank you for the 50. She says, thank you for your passion and pursuit of justice. You are both awesome. Also, I'd be terrified to live in Massachusetts, in particular, Canton. And you know, the state police, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but I just can't buy into the fact that all of law enforcement that touched this case is incompetent. I can't buy that. There's something more to this, and I hope that the FBI is looking at this, and there's going to be more to come.
Their FBI is watching. Definitely, they are watching. If you know anything about the FBI investigations, they take their sweet ass time. They're not hurry up and make a collar. They're slow, and they watch, and they wait, and they listen, and they wait to pick off the low-hanging fruit in many cases. So they watch this. They're watching this testimony. They're seeing who's perjuring themselves because they brought many of these same players into their grand jury.
Right.
So they locked in their statements in their grand jury. Okay. And so they're going to see if there's discrepancies in this testimony, and then they're going to haul these people back in.
Yeah. How many of our live audience and our replays, if you're watching on the replay, thank you. We love the replay viewers. How many of our live audience and replay viewers feel that the FBI is going to take on this case after Karen Reed's trial is over? And we hope it's over with a proper ending. Press a 1 in the chat if you feel the FBI is going to investigate these law enforcement and all of the actors involved in this thing, and it runs far and deep. Press a 1 in the chat if you feel they are. Press a 2 if you think, heck no, we're off base. There's a lot of people that are on the opposite side, Ed, that feel that Karen Reed is guilty and that we are out of our minds for thinking otherwise. I want to talk to you about the bite marks on John's arms, or we'll go and we'll say the marks on John's arm. Our good friend, attorney Melanie Little, had a guest on her show. She asked this guy about 10 months to a year ago to come on a show, Garret Wing. He's got a huge YouTube show, a huge YouTube presence, over 2 million subscribers.
He's going to testify in this case.
Yeah. He came on attorney Melanie Little's show 10 months or more ago and was shown, he knew nothing about this case. He was shown the bite marks on John O'Keefe's arm, and he is a dog bite expert. I want to play a little bit of this. How many of you guys have seen this? Press a 1 in the chat if you have. He did a follow-up video on his own channel because it bothered him so much. When he joined attorney Melanie Little, he did a follow-up on his own channel and did an 1 hour and 16-minute video where he talks about these marks on John O'Keefe's arms. Let's listen.
Recorded testimony, if you will. By no means was I in the trial, but when I went on Melanie Little's show and she showed me this photo and I started doing some more research, I now understand what everyone's fascination and involvement in this case is, because if you haven't been following, it is a complete shit show. It is unbelievably embarrassing what the police departments in that area have done. It's a completely botched investigation, conspiracies galore, and in my humble opinion, I don't think this lady has anything to do with the death of her boyfriend. Again, the Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. It's a complete setup, a huge cover-up. And when I share these facts and circumstances with people who aren't familiar with the case, like, their jaw drops. And that's what I want to do today, just kind of share it with you as it unraveled to me, because again, wasn't involved, but once I got involved, I just really started looking at it, paying attention to the trial. That trial's going on right now. This guy right here?
Yep.
All right. So let me get a little closer, unless you think I'm perfect here. What do you think?
Yep, you're good there.
All right. So I'm going to try to This is kind of like a self-healing properties of this kind of rubber synthetic thing. So the wounds, it's not exactly the same as, say, like human flesh, that when it gets cut, it kind of splits open. So I can kind of stretch this open and you'll see, you're not going to see puncture wounds as much as you're going to see. Is this showing up?
Yeah, can you lift it up just a slight bit?
Okay, sure. What you're going to see more of is lacerations, striations, what looks like scratches, what looks like someone took a knife and went like this with it. And what is that? That's the police dog's teeth. We try to open these up a little bit and you should be able to see them more. You can see where literally the dog's teeth went in or attempted to go in, depending upon how strong the dog's bite is. We may talk about that later, how in this case, this wasn't a trained police dog. This wasn't a trained attack dog. This was a dog that we would say was a shallow biter, a dog that bites only with its front teeth. We do see that in the police world a lot. In the police world, we're trying to get our police dogs to bite with a full mouth grip. Most of the power and the ability to bite and hold through a struggle happens in the rear of the dog's jaws. Up just a little bit. It's over 30 minutes long. I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, but you can go ahead and switch to it now. Let me know when we're there. All right, we're up. So if you look here, I just want to...
This is from his appearance on Melanie Little's show.
A kind of proof. This is 4 months ago, Attorney Melanie Little's channel, where I first got involved in up just a little bit.
Okay, so these are I don't know where these came from, but these are the actual marks on police officer John O'Keefe's arms, by the way.
One thing, look at the spread of these injuries. From the bottom to the top, okay? And then he was wearing a shirt, okay? And it doesn't match the tail light. The tail light is not that big. The damage to the tail light, there's no shards of plastic in his clothing or on his skin or in those wounds, okay? And it looks like you could see him. I'm not a dog expert, so I'll just let him continue. But those injuries should have been swabbed at the medical examiner's office for DNA, or even before that at the hospital. Okay, yeah. If I would have called the medical legal death investigator at the medical examiner's office and say, hey, I got some suspicious wounds on this victim, and I'd like to get your permission to swab this for DNA before anything happens to this body, before it gets bagged up and then delivered to the morgue. Yeah. And I would get their permission. I would write in date and time, all of that, and then I would actually do these swabs. The person at the lab did not swab these injuries. The medical examiner's office did not swab these injuries. What the person at the lab swabbed was his outer shirt that he was wearing that night with no jacket. And they apparently just randomly swabbed the sleeve, but not the defects.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And this, you could see he still has his hospital band on his arm. There's
right.
Still
and he still has like your CPR. I'm not your CPR, but your electro EKG
on his shoulder right there. Let me let the rest of this play. I'm not going to play it all, but I'll link his channel in the description, and I want you guys to go and follow his channel. He does have, I think, 1 or 2 videos about this, and I believe this is the most detailed one.
What I'm describing here is when this first came up, I shared this photo with a couple of my canine friends who know nothing about the Karen Reed case. Still, I don't think know anything about it. All I did was send them this photo, and I said, what do you think? And they go, basically, that's a dog bite, and kind of a crappy one. If you were thinking of this as a police dog bite, it's not an ideal police dog bite. More superficial wounds, again, not the bite and hold that we're looking for, multiple bites, and what you would consider to be shallow bites and an unconfident dog, which coincides with, guess what? Because we haven't mentioned this yet. I'm assuming you guys know the case. It is believed that it's possible. One of the storylines, which I tend to believe, is that Karen Reed, after a night of drinking with her boyfriend, dropped her off at a party where there were some other police officers inside. The police officer owned the home. There was an ATF agent inside. a half dozen or so people in there. And it's possible, it seems likely that something happened in that home after midnight. Everyone's drunk, a lot of testosterone flowing, and they got into some kind of physical altercation. And during that physical altercation, they literally beat him to death. And during that physical altercation, he received, among many other injuries, these wounds you see on his right arm, which are extremely consistent with dog bites.
And this isn't just some guy, Ed. This is
No.
this is a dog. This is a dog trainer, a police dog trainer, and dog bite expert.
And the Albert's dog was a failed police dog. He failed out of a police program. He had some problems, and he's bitten other people, which I believe two of them are going to testify for the defense that they were bitten by this dog.
Unbelievable. Let's listen to a little bit more.
Which is what this looks like. But this is
Give
what
us
I
a thumbs up or thumbs down.
expect from like that
Any
German
feedback yet?
Shepherd we saw bite that lady, the delivery driver, right? Just
Right.
naturally going in, doing as much damage as possible, not understanding the mechanics of biting deep and holding. These,
Thank you.
in my opinion, are bites utilizing
So again, a lot
the
of talking
front
here,
the mouth.
but for a street bite, we're simulating a scenario that looks like a street bite, right? Encountering someone in a vehicle that's not giving up, that's putting up a fight, and that may look like his real arm, and that's exactly the point. It's not just the use of these tools, as Steve will tell you, anybody else who knows how to use these, it's how you present it. It's the picture. As with everything in dog training, it's what picture are you presenting?
So he goes on to show various different dog bites. Some of them are punctures where they bite down on you, and he describes the actual injuries on police officer John O'Keefe's arm, and those were actual pictures. Again, I don't know where they came from, but those were presented as he was a guest on attorney Melanie Little's show. This further, this looking at this part of this picture, Ed, this is something that we haven't gotten into in Karen Reed 2.0 yet, but this will be part of what we're going to see in the coming days or in the coming weeks. Let's go to the chat, Ed, because there's a bunch of super chats and I want to get to them all. So thank you all for being here and thank you for the support. A lot of people have questions, Rob Pate sends in a $12 super chat. I've never seen a $12 super chat. The thing about trooper involvement, most officers are local. They serve a grid. Usually they is where they live. Yes. So eat, sleep, drink with many local officers, at least in my home in the state of Texas. We saw that upstate New York with the correction officers and some of the local police as well.
Here in New York City, the NYPD had a policy that you cannot work in the precinct that you live in.
Yeah. Yep. Facts. Again, here's more pictures from Court TV that he goes on to show of John O'Keefe's arm. This is, you can see, it's from Court TV. This entire 1 hour and 16-minute video is fascinating to educate yourself on dog bite marks. And when you compare what he's saying, Garrett saying, of what he's seeing here, there's no question in my mind. And as we always say, we leave it up to the experts in those fields. We're no dog bite experts. And I'm sure you have knowledge on it, but at the end of the day, I yield to guys like this.
Oh yeah, I know where my line is. I would never say that that's a dog bite. That's up to him. I would document it. I would swab it. I would get the DNA out of it. I wouldn't have let it go without doing that. So I mean, first of all, the shirt that he was wearing was in the back of Proctor's car for several weeks before it finally showed up at the Canton Police Department, and then it got transferred to the lab. And then the shoe, that's another thing, the shoe. They show a picture of the shoe. There's no context to it. Where was the shoe in relationship to the house and the yard? Where was it? All they show is you a couple of very fuzzy photographs of this shoe with no scale, no nothing. They didn't follow one forensic standard.
It's
no measurements of anything. We don't know where anything was collected from. Nothing, no sketch, nothing. Yes, there was pig DNA on the shirt. So people are surmising that the pig DNA came from a pig's ear treat that you would give to a dog.
Let's reel it in and get back on track here, because I didn't even anticipate talking about the dog bites, but I think that's important. I think we all need to know that's part of some of the injuries on John O'Keefe's body that none of these investigators talked about. Let me ask you this, Ed. Why wouldn't paramedics who were responding there, we heard from the paramedics, why didn't they talk about this? When they got him in the ambulance, they cut away all of his stuff. Anything that he was wearing, they cut it away. Whether it was a jacket, long sleeve shirt, whatever the case may be, once he's in that ambulance, we know how it goes.
Yeah.
They cut everything away. Because why? They want to see what kind of trauma is on the patient, right? They want to see, was he stabbed? Was he shot? Was he, what are the injuries? So they saw this. How come nobody testified to this?
Yeah. Well, you got cops like the Lieutenant Gallagher. Well, we didn't know it was a crime scene. Everything is a crime scene until it's not.
Right. We have a video up on that. So here's Trooper Keefe. Right. This is day 11. This is our first guy to take the stand on day 11. There was a bunch of sidebars and rulings and stuff like that. But this is what you were talking about. He took these pieces out of the bag. Do we want to play a little bit of this?
Yeah,
Ed?
yeah, play it, because I want to talk about this.
Okay.
Do you want the lights on, Mr. Brennan?
Please, thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Gilman, you can take the photo down, please. With the court's permission, I'm going to move this piece of evidence, item into evidence.
Okay. 677.
That was the
Sir, you mentioned there's writing on the outside of the bag.
Ed, and before we go into the taillight pieces, everybody's talking in the chat about the Nike shoe, John O'Keefe's Nike shoe. How come it was almost like it looked brand new out of the box? There was not a lot of scuffs on the shoe. It looked brand new. Anybody in the chat? I thought I saw some people saying that. I did when I saw it today. I was like, wow, there's no dirt on it. There's no, he showed that shoe. I gotta find it.
I want to show this while you're looking for it. Yeah, the shoe was pretty clean. I don't know if the lab did it. So for those of you who don't know this, right, here are pig ear treats for dogs.
Right, here we go. Let me make you full screen.
It's a pork product. So, after they got that information, that they found pig DNA on the jacket, on the shirt. Well, hey, that's something I think you could have used to get a search warrant.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't want to get a search warrant, you could have asked for consent.
Yeah.
And then if they said no, well, I'd be a little suspicious if you said no for consent at the scene at the time the body was lying in the front yard, and you would say, hey, do you mind if I search the house? The door was open.
Right.
We don't know if somebody came in here. Maybe they're hiding in here or whatever, you know?
Yeah. All right. So here's the shoe as they recovered it. The CERT team documented this. This is the front lawn right at the curb, he called it a berm, at this little asphalt curb that they have here. It's an asphalt curb. This is the shoe on
6 inches, 6 inches.
Right. So I want to see where he gets that out of the bag. I guess it's after.
And we have no context to where this shoe is. There's no measurements. There's no overall photographs or medium range to show where the shoe is. There's no scale in the photograph. There's no evidence number in the photograph. Nothing.
Why am I not seeing the shoe?
The shoe. You showed it before when he pulled it out of the bag.
Let me ask you a few questions before you open it. Could you stand and show that bag? There's red tape on it. What's that for?
To secure the bag closed.
If the bag is open, is it then retaped?
Yes.
You write on the outside of the bag.
Yes.
Why do you do that?
To memorialize the date, time when the evidence was collected.
Could you open the bag and show us what's in it?
Yes, sir.
Don't you think it's a little late for the Commonwealth to try to present to the jury that they're doing things the right way?
Well, this is the state police. Apparently, they don't need to use Stop and Shop bags. Hold on a second.
It's the same material, Ed, isn't it?
Stop and Shop.
Crazy. Ed, that's part of your it's part of your package now.
Now, every time that bag gets opened by the people in the lab, there should be a date and time and name of the person that did that in a permanent marker at the area where they opened it.
Sorry. Yeah.
Now, the one piece that he brings out, and it was broken, just goes to show you they didn't package it correctly.
Why didn't they package it correctly, Ed?
Well, obviously they didn't safeguard it because if somehow it broke inside the bag. So how were they handling it? Right now, here's another thing: when these, if they would have had the crime scene team there, we would have taken those items after we documented everything, collected everything, and scanned everything correctly, and brought it back to our mobile crime scene van and processed those items for DNA and fingerprints right there in the van at the scene. Okay. Then once that's done, okay, we scribe our initials and the evidence number and maybe the case number
these items are ever
into
anybody other than your
an obscure area of the lens.
Right.
Now,
No,
what wasn't done here?
No.
What wasn't done here is an examination of the broken edges of the plastic to see the direction of force that was used to break the glass. Was the force direction going in to the housing of the light, or was this lens being pulled out? You can microscopically examine the edges of the broken lens, and they have telltale signs of the direction of force, and none of that was done here.
Not surprised. Now these little pieces.
Is that smaller piece consistent with the same color as the two bigger pieces?
Yes.
Is it consistent with the same material?
Yes.
You could put that back in the bag, please. I'd move this into evidence, please.
If those pieces were separate pieces, then they should have been packaged individually, not thrown all in one bag.
Yeah, so you could shake it up and hear it make a noise. It's crazy. It's insane.
Like that?
Yes.
And what is it?
A piece of clear plastic.
Is that piece of clear plastic, when you saw it, was it at ground level?
Yes,
Did you bag that item?
I did.
When you bagged that item, was there another item along with it in the same bag?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you change your gloves between that and the last piece? Did you pick up the two individual pieces you just spoke about with the same gloves? You probably did, right? Why did you put two individual pieces together in a bag, in the same bag? Why didn't you separate them and package them separately?
All great things for the defense to use. I hope,
Yes.
you know,
They're an accurate
I hope
depiction
that
of how you
they,
saw it that morning?
Yes, sir.
you know, because we watched the cross. They didn't ask those questions. That
No,
would've-
he testified already. He's gone. And Judge Bev won't let an expert like me come in there and say how fucked up everything is.
With the court's permission, could we show Exhibit 79 to the jury?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, would you be able to close? Thank you. You recognize that item, sir?
Yes.
And did you bring those two items with you, the past exhibit and this exhibit?
Yes.
Could you produce those, please?
All right, let's listen to the cross.
Is that your current testimony?
Yes.
You have not yet.
No.
The lead investigator is the trooper who is responsible for the case, correct?
Yes.
Michael Proctor was the lead.
He immediately looked annoyed by this cross-examination. This just starts. Did you see how he answered? Yes. And going right to the water bottle. You didn't see much of the water bottle when the prosecutor was asking him his ground ball questions.
Investigator for the investigation into the death of John O'Keefe, was he not?
Yes.
If somebody asked within your unit while this case was going on, whose case is it or who has that case, your answer would have been Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
The two of you have worked cases together in the past, correct?
A few.
You've worked on this case with Michael Proctor, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, within your work on this case, you actually partnered with him for certain assignments within the case, did you not?
You'll have to be more specific.
Sure. So for instance, on October 21 of 2022, you and Michael Proctor interviewed Sarah Levinson together, correct?
No, I don't recall that.
That's a true answer right there. He's shocked. He doesn't know that he's in that report as being in that interview.
If I may just have a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
He's drinking a lot more water now.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Tracy says he keeps shrinking lower in his chair.
He gave him the report. He's looking at the report right now.
Yeah. Look, he's squinting. Look at this.
Right now, he's about ready to shit a diamond. He's not happy with what he's seeing in that report.
Oh, somebody just in the chat put 4255 was the shoe. I want to go to that. And then come back.
I'm sorry, Trooper Keefe, just so we're clear, I'm not going to ask you any questions about the specifics of what Sarah Levinson said. So,
Court permission, can he show the item?
Yes.
There you go. Thank you. Who said that in the chat? Whoever that was, thank you. I was trying for the life of me to find it, and I wasn't able to find it. So here's a look at the shoe, Ed. I'm going to go full screen with it, and it looks like somebody cleaned it almost, right? I mean,
Maybe the lab did. Maybe the lab did after they were done examining it, or, you know.
Look at it.
Well, remember, one of these shoes had several different male DNA on it.
If you could place it back in the bag.
Why is it so clean?
I'd ask this to be marked in an exhibit.
All right, any objections to Eddie?
Court permission, can he show the item?
Yes.
I don't know. I might be overreacting, but
Trooper, is that the same item that you found that night?
Yes, sir.
You could place it back in the bag.
Yeah, the MVAC is a great tool for these things, these types of things.
this gets worse as it goes along here.
He's reading the whole interview.
He's done.
Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not you participated in an interview of Sarah Levinson with Michael Proctor on October 21st of 2022?
Yes, I don't recall the specifics, but.
So when you say yes, is it your current testimony that your memory is refreshed that you were actually there?
Yes.
Okay.
And now he has to say yes.
Yeah, he's definitely off. He's taken out. He is definitely caught off guard here, and you could just tell by the way he's squinting, the way he's looking at this defense attorney, almost like he's seething. right?
Yeah, because Proctor threw him under the bus.
Would have participated in that interview together, correct?
Yes.
But you did not write the report, correct?
No, I did not.
Michael Proctor wrote the report, correct?
Yes, he did.
He was the lead investigator writing the report, correct?
Yes, he wrote this report.
He chose the language to use in that report, correct?
I did not have any input on how he wrote this report.
Right. You had no input. You weren't standing over him while he was typing it, correct?
Correct.
Now, other examples of, and actually, let me take that back from you if you don't mind. I may approach Judge.
Yes.
Thank you. You're welcome. Other examples are the reports on the videos that you, well, strike that. Let me start by saying this. You, or asking this, you retrieved videos from both the Waterfall Bar and Grill and CF McCarthy's, did you not?
That's correct.
You and Sergeant Buchanan retrieved the videos from CF McCarthy's, correct?
Yes.
But lead detective or lead investigator Michael Proctor was the one to analyze the video and write a report on it, correct?
I would have to see that report, sir.
Sure.
Everybody sees how uncomfortable it is. Thomas Johnson said, not the same shoe.
That's because the photographs weren't properly taken at the crime scene. Can't tell.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Kerry. Thanks for the super chat.
Again, if you read that silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Ed, what's the protocol for handling this evidence in court? I think that's what Kerry was alluding to there about the glove, the same glove. Did you see it?
Yeah. At this point,
Yeah, it's a move.
Changing gloves in between handling items of evidence that have already been processed and cleaned and so forth and so on between the laboratory and so forth. But, I always like to say never, right? Because we know the case like that Jared told us about the rock that was used to kill a young lady. And then he got his hands on it after the lab had already processed it and MVAC'd it and managed to get a full profile of the actual murderer.
34 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Jared Bradley, our good friend from NBAC. We'll have him back on again soon.
I remember there was one trial I was testifying in, and defense attorney was handling a blood-soaked shirt. Still had the blood soaked in it, dried, albeit with no gloves. And I told him, counselor, you really should put some gloves on.
Unbelievable. I'm sure he didn't appreciate you showing him up like that.
Yeah.
The trooper.
Yes.
And that. I may approach.
Okay.
Sorry. The unit.
Man.
Rainey Scorty Bello, who performed the autopsy, correct?
Yes.
Had you met her prior to that day?
No.
Had you spoken to her prior to that day?
No.
Did you know before the autopsy was performed that your former colleague, lead investigator Michael Proctor, had discussed the case with Dr. Scorty Bello without telling us what you knew of what was said?
Objection.
With regard to Dr. Scorty Bello's knowledge of what the state police theory was of what happened, did you have to explain that, or was it your understanding she already knew what your theory was?
Objection.
Mrs. Stage, you can ask that differently.
What, if any, conversations did you have with Dr. Scorty Bello about what your unit's theory was about what happened to John O'Keefe?
There was no theory.
Oh, you did not provide any theory to her, correct?
I did not provide a theory.
You learned at the autopsy from
Hold
your
on a
officer
second. Hold on a second. Ron.
John O'Keefe had two.
You'll see later. He says there was no theory because he says we knew what happened.
Well, we got to point that out, Ed. That's
Yeah.
Black eyes and a swollen right eye, correct?
Yes.
You also learned that there was a small cut above his right eye, correct?
Yes.
And there was a small abrasion on the left side of his nose, correct?
I would have to reference the report for the exact words.
Okay. I may have a moment.
got put the rumors fly. Coffee on the Stars says people are saying who's these people? People are saying it's a different shoe from the last trial. I guess we'd have to compare it, right? It looks
Yeah,
pretty-
I think the defense attorneys would have been all over that if that was in fact the case. These guys aren't missing much.
So I placed another document in front of you. Just take a look, read it silently to yourself, and look up at me when you're done. And I would direct your attention to the second page for the question I just asked you. Having reviewed that report, Trooper, is your memory refreshed as to whether you observed a small abrasion on the left side of John O'Keefe's nose?
Yes.
Now, was this the first autopsy that you had attended, or had you attended ones in the past?
I cannot recall.
It could have been the first one?
How do you not recall that? It's a simple question.
Most likely not.
When you're attending an autopsy as a member of the CPAC unit or the Norfolk Detectives Unit, you are expecting that the medical examiner is going to examine the body, correct?
Yes.
And you're there to witness that examination, correct?
Yes.
At the end of the examination, you are expecting that there will be a determination as to cause and manner of death, correct?
Not.
In this case, when the autopsy ended, you left the medical examiner's office, correct?
Yes.
When you left, your understanding was that the cause and manner of death was still undetermined, correct?
Gotcha.
You knew when you left that Dr. Scorti-Bello had seen the scratches or bites or injuries to John O'Keefe's arms, correct?
Objection.
You knew when you left that in your presence,
everything's sustained. Everything. She doesn't even give it a thought. She just, as soon as the prosecutor objects, sustain. Ridiculous.
Dr. Scorti-Bello had seen the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm.
Object to the line of questioning.
Sustained.
Of course.
Yes.
May we approach?
Okay.
Yeah, he's approaching to say, hey, I'm trying to ask some simple questions here. Why are all my questions getting sustained? Give me a break here, Your Honor. Let me do my job. It's just, it's
Now,
amazing.
these are seasoned defense attorneys.
Go ahead.
If you counted up the number of times she said sustain to the defense attorney and the prosecutor, you see that the defense attorney far outweighs what she's done to the prosecutor. Okay. It's so obvious at this point. And the jurors know this.
But the last little bit is key right here. I love how the camera gets her sipping on her vodka. I mean, her drink.
Little daytime drinking, huh?
Who here in the chat thinks that's vodka in that bottle and not water? Put a 1 if it's vodka, 2 if it's water. Go. I'm putting my 1 in the chat right now. Hold on. I want to vote. I know you wish you could vote, Ed. There's my 1. A lot of 1s, Ed. I don't see a number 2 at all. Who's here to defend Auntie Bev?
Were you watching Dr. Scorti-Bello as she was conducting the autopsy?
Yes.
Did she appear to be looking at John O'Keefe's body?
It's the same thing, just ask the different.
What direction were her eyes facing when she was examining John O'Keefe's body?
I don't recall.
What do you mean you don't recall?
Looking at the ceiling, Trooper.
Hold on a second.
Pardon my French, but you're an asshole.
Thank you, Cam.
She was doing her job conducting the autopsy.
And in order to do
The
that,
body.
I'm sorry?
She was looking at the body, I assume. Not in.
That's what he just asked you, and you didn't answer it.
Looking at the body, you saw her looking at the body, correct?
Yes.
And looking at the body included an arm, correct?
Yes.
And it was at the arm was not covered up during the autopsy, correct?
No.
It was open for you to see, correct?
Yes.
And you saw the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm, correct?
Yes.
You didn't see any bruising on his arm, correct?
I don't recall.
You didn't notice any obvious broken bones, did you?
I'm not a medical expert.
Not what he asked you.
This to us is shocker. This is a shock for this trooper to get up there and say he did not recall seeing any of these injuries on the case of his career. I mean, this is, oh man, I don't know.
If John O'Keefe had a compound fracture and a bone was sticking out, you didn't see it. I don't recall there being any broken bones.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm watching Ollie North in the Iran-Contra hearings.
I mean, he's being so argumentative and so stubborn over silly things. This is not where you act like this.
Common practice for the state police to attend autopsies when there's an undetermined death, correct?
Yes.
It is not at all common for the defense to attend an autopsy, correct?
I've never experienced that.
Right. And there was no defense attorney or defense expert at the autopsy of John O'Keefe, correct?
Not when I was there.
You were there, correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing that prevented you from giving input to the doctor as she examined the body, correct?
We don't give input. We give the facts that we know so far in the case.
Okay.
There you go.
Well,
see, there you go.
Facts is
This right here is the end, but this is again a soundbite that you're going to hear over and over as sticking points in this trial. This trooper just made the jury in his last 3 to 5 minutes of his testimony really realize that he is major league perjuring himself and has no knowledge, or is purporting to have no knowledge of anything that he did.
Like, he's mincing words. In the beginning, that when the defense attorney was asking him about giving the theory, that's why he didn't like the word theory. He says facts. We give facts. Well, you got no facts, Jack.
Yeah.
Okay. Science gives you the facts. And apparently you all don't believe in science.
Yeah. C. Brown says uneffing believable. And it is. It's uneffing believable. Good to see you, conservative felon. Thank you for being here.
giving input, is it not?
It's not input.
Okay. Did you talk to Dr. School? It was open for you to see, correct?
Yes.
And you saw the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm, correct?
Yes.
You didn't see any bruising on his arm, correct?
I mean, is he looking at photos there?
I don't recall.
You didn't notice any obvious broken bones, did you?
I mean, what could he have been looking at there? He's looking
A
down.
simple answer right here. No, I didn't see any obvious broken bones. What's so difficult about saying that?
This is what makes it so crazy and so not believable. And he just, again, this is a win. This is a major league win for the defense. Major league. Joey Brooklyn, you said it. and we said it before, a major shit show. This is a Massachusetts State Police trooper. Guy's supposed to be a detective. I mean, I God forbid wouldn't want one of my loved ones having this guy investigate it. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see it.
I'm not a medical expert.
And it is common practice for the state police to attend autopsies when there's an undetermined death, correct?
Yes.
It is not at all common for the defense to attend an autopsy, correct?
I've never experienced that.
Right. And there was no defense attorney or defense expert at the autopsy of John O'Keefe, correct?
Not when I was there.
You were there, correct?
Yes.
And there was nothing that prevented you from giving input to the doctor as she examined the body, correct?
We don't give input. We give the facts that we know so far in the case.
Okay. Well, giving the facts is giving input, is it not?
It's not input.
Really? Why is
Okay.
he mincing words?
Did you
Why?
talk to
Why?
Dr.
Why is there
Bellows
fencing
about
going
that?
on now?
Yes.
And you gave her information, if you don't want to call it input, correct?
Yes.
And at the end of it, you left without her ruling it a homicide, correct?
Objection.
I have nothing further.
Now, folks, if you don't know, the medical examiner did not give a manner of death. Okay. And in New York, we could not go to trial without a manner of death. Okay. And it has to be homicide. Okay. Because you don't go to trial for a suicide and you don't go to trial for an accident. You may go to civil court for an accident. Okay. But this is ridiculous. And I mean, it just blows my mind that he's fencing with the defense attorney over this nonsense. It makes him look so petty and so childish and stupid.
Right.
Okay.
Really bad. Really bad. And this is.
And wait, one more thing. But yet, wait, there's more.
There's more.
Okay. Then we have the text messages from Proctor with his whole cabal of troopers that he tried to get the medical examiner to change her opinion in their report, to change it from undetermined to homicide. And the other troopers were razzing him that he was a rookie, that he couldn't get her to switch her findings. To me, I believe that's a crime.
That is.
He was intimidating a public official to change an official report.
Right. That's going to come up. We're going to hear it. I mean, I want to bring this up, but it's going to take so darn long, and we're an hour and 28 into this. Second witness of the day for the state, for the Commonwealth, was Jessica Hyde, digital forensic examiner, and as smart as and she's a very knowledgeable person. We talked to our friend Bill. I talked to another cell phone expert, and they had nothing but good things to say about her. But she talked over the prosecutor. She talked over the defense. I'm not going to punish us to listen to this again, but they argued that there was a ruling in, where was it, Maryland, Ed, or Virginia? Maryland, I think it was, that not her testimony. Was it her testimony in that case? The judge ruled that it was not admissible, or there was a whole argue, Ed, as it pertains to this witness, and the defense.
It was Maryland.
Maryland. That's what I thought. The defense wanted to be able to pretty much, go after her and bring this previous case up, and Judge Bev ultimately ruled against it. But her testimony encompassed the whole rest of the day, and she was very detailed oriented. She was very hyper. At one point, I text you that she appeared to be very uncomfortable. What was your takeaway from her testimony, Ed? And I know you listened a lot.
May the fourth be with you. Yes, that's my takeaway. She's a super geek, and there are changes between her previous report and testimony in the last trial and what's going on today. I just think she is. When there was a ruling in Maryland from a judge in a case that she was involved in that said that declared that what she did wasn't accepted by the scientific community at large. And so he wouldn't allow her to testify or allow that information in. And she actually brought the transcripts from that ruling there, but the judge would not allow the defense team to impeach her on that because, you know, it's very simple because I've seen it time and time again with forensic experts. All the defense attorneys would have to do on voir dire. See, and that's another thing. Our voir dires in New York City are done right in front of the jury while we're on the stand, okay, about to testify. So in this case, they do the voir dires out of the presence of the jury, okay, where in this case in New York, whatever attorney is bringing like me in to testify, whether it's the defense or the prosecutor, they typically would make an application to the judge by laying a foundation of all my subject matter expertise, training, experience, certifications, and then they would ask to move me in as an expert, and then the opposing attorney, be it the prosecutor or the defense attorney, typically it's the defense attorney, would then ask the judge to be able to voir dire me and then try to punch holes in my experience, training, certifications, and and in most cases they would I would have to say about maybe 40% of the time they would just acquiesce to me being an expert, and then the other 60% they would tell the judge I oppose him being an expert, and then the judge makes a ruling.
Yeah.
Now I always told the whoever was making those trying to have me moved in as an expert that if they felt the judge was going to deny me that status, to pull the application to have me made as an expert. Because once a judge rules that you're not an expert, now you got a problem.
Yeah.
But thank God I've been ruled as an expert in almost I would say 399 trials I've been involved in that I was moved in as an expert.
All right. Okay. So let's move to. I just want to briefly touch on what she testified to here today. What we kind of gleaned from her testimony, and she was released, doesn't mean that she can't be called back, but it looks like they're done with her. Essentially, she said that the state police failed to put John O'Keefe's phone in one of those Faraday bags.
Yes. Okay.
So there's another, and I'm just highlighting these evidence collection mistakes.
Right. So the technical working group on the digital forensics say for cell phones and things of that nature, either you put it in airplane mode or you stick it in a Faraday bag or a Faraday box.
Right.
And it was apparent, the defense attorney caught it, that the phone was still active after John died and while in possession of the police for some period of time. And she was able to find changes in the phone for the prosecution had asked her to examine that particular phone from a time period from 12 something a.m. to 12 something p.m. for a 12-hour period.
Right.
So she did. And so, John died at 7:50 or something like that, or I forgot the exact time. But yet, from that time the police had possession of the phone to the time they told her to stop examining the phone, it was still active, and there were a lot of changes to the phone. Data was changing, and things were happening.
Right.
And foot steps were being taken and being recorded, things of that nature. So she doesn't know if that continued past that time because she only looked to the time they told her to. So it was apparent that they had not safeguarded that phone correctly, and they didn't follow the standards.
Right. And that's not shocking because that falls right in line with all the other bullshit that has happened in this case, from the rinky-dink Canton cops to every person that put their hands in this thing. They seem to manage to screw it up.
Now, for those of you who don't know what a Faraday bag is, it blocks electronic signals of the electronic device that's inside of it when it's sealed. Yep. So that nobody can go in there and send you can't call that phone, and that phone won't receive the call, or that phone won't receive your text until it comes out of the Faraday bag. Okay.
She had said the next best thing is to put it into airplane mode if you don't have Faraday bag. But that's still
right. But even with airplane mode, you can attach it to a Wi-Fi.
Right. We're not cell phone experts, and that's why we're not going to go into that part of the testimony. We have a cell phone expert. He was not available tonight, but we plan to bring him on to get some clarification, because as Amy says here, and thank you for the $20 super chat, she said there's a ton of confusion around the 200 calls, and I hope it gets addressed. Well, we're not able to address it because we're not cell phone experts. Calls are recorded for all times, but she extracted only the previous 200 calls. So when the 201 comes in, number one rolls off. Hearts, I love your show. Thank you for giving your time. Amy, I wish that we could talk on it, but we're not experts in as it pertains to that. But there was a lot of testimony today about phone calls, about text messages, about the way your browser stores your search history. And I gleaned from what she said is that no matter what you do, you can't delete your open browser history on a cell phone. There's no way to do it. So that's what I kind of gleaned from what she was saying today. But again,
wait till the defense attorneys come.
Right, exactly. So this is Robert. Expert. He was a gentleman. He went gentle with her. But let's see if we could just bear just a little bit of the end of this. I promise I won't play it all, but this is how he ended up with her. And she actually agreed with him that he was right on one of his final points that he made.
Yes, on the
Ed.
Yeah, he was right on. She doesn't know where the 230, the fact of a search being done for
to die in cold.
Right at 2:30, it could have happened.
They sure seem to use a lot of sirens over at the courthouse, by the courthouse in Denham.
Well, the fire department and the police department are right next door to it.
But definitely they don't use sirens in Canton when it's snowing. You wouldn't want to alert anybody that a police vehicle is responding to a call.
I swear I heard a video with sirens on it. I think it was an ambulance or a fire truck.
Everybody testified, including the EMTs and the paramedics, that there was no need for us to use sirens on that type of evening with the inclement weather. It's the exact opposite. You'd want to use your sirens to alert people that an emergency vehicle is coming through an intersection. It just made no sense. Doesn't make any sense.
From that. Sorry, Your Honor.
Listen to double sirens.
May I, Your Honor? Thank you. In that release note, does Celebrite state any reason for why they wrote not a reliable timestamp?
There are other.
I'm sorry, my
but
question
not
is, do they
Celebrite?
state in the release note whether there's a reason for why they concluded?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor.
Please try not to talk.
Sorry, Your Honor. 2.
Copy that.
Not asking you to read it, just asking whether or not they give any reason for the conclusion, not a reliable timestamp.
One moment, I'd like to review what they wrote. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
She puts too much commentary
Yes, they
in
do.
her.
They state that further research since is the reason that they're doing it, that there's further research.
Do they state what that research is?
They don't, but
All right, but they don't state what the further research is.
that is correct. They
All right,
state
now
that
what I'd like
it's
to do is
unreliable.
move on to Axiom. You were asked questions by Attorney Brennan, and you referred to Axiom as using a different parlance with a timestamp of carved, correct?
Celebrate uses this deleted demarcation or recovered demarcation. Axiom does not do that at all. They speak to how they recovered the artifact, be it that it was parsed. When I say parsed, I mean the item was where it was expected to be in the algorithm, found it, located it, and said it's here, versus carved, which is when they have to go into an unexpected area, such as slack space, which would be the areas that are not yet used or were previously used to extract the data from that.
So Axiom actually recovers the timestamp, but Celebrite does not. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
currently, previously, when we did the first case.
Right, but currently,
opposite.
Celebrite doesn't, but Axiom does. Axiom recovers 2:27:40 a.m., correct? Timestamp? They
That is
recover.
the timestamp that they show for that artifact. correct?
Exactly. So now I'd like to go back to the next topic, our discussion about Mr. O'Keefe's phone and secured or not. You talked about one example of maybe needing to use a biometric to unlock a phone, and that might be a reason, as I understand it, as to why.
I appreciate the super chat, but I highly doubt that, because if they were supporting Karen Reed, they wouldn't want to break up the continuity of the defense as they cross-examine a witness. So
And one of their own testified against Karen.
Yeah, I don't see the fire department supporting Karen through making their sirens go off. That whoever said that, that's ridiculous.
Someone might not put it in a Faraday bag or box. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
Okay, do you know whether the passcode was immediately provided on the phone of Mr. O'Keefe?
I do not have that information.
Assume that the passcode was immediately provided for the phone of Mr. O'Keefe. Can you think of any other reason why that phone wouldn't be put in airplane mode, Faraday bag, or Faraday box?
Best practice would be to put it in a Faraday bag.
Okay. And that phone was obviously not put in airplane mode, Faraday box, or Faraday bag after 6:04 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Correct.
Now let's go to,
Well, I don't know if at some point past 12 o'clock. My report only goes to noon, so just for clarity, I don't know
Fair enough.
anything past noon.
fair enough, but from 6:04 a.m. until approximately noon on
Correct.
January 29, 2022, at least that time, that phone is not in airplane mode in a Faraday bag or Faraday box, correct?
It would appear such. Because I didn't analyze past that, I don't know if it had been potentially Faradayed and then it broke Faraday and got data, but I don't suspect that based on this. It appears that that data was live. But I just have to speak to the fact that I just don't know because I didn't go past noon.
Right, but you're going past noon.
Right.
I'm not.
Okay.
My
yeah,
question,
6
and
a.m. to
I'm-
noon, it does not appear to be Faraday.
So to be clear, from 6:04 a.m. on January 29, 2022 until at least noon of January 29, 2022, the iPhone of Mr. O'Keefe is not in airplane mode, it's not in a Faraday bag, and it's not a Faraday box, correct?
Unless it was in a broken Faraday bag, like they put it and it was failing. But it does not appear to have been placed in Faraday bag.
All right.
No, I'm just being honest. You should test your Faraday bags. They go bad. I use Dr. Katz's testing methodology, but in 100%, it appears to have been receiving signal for that entire period.
She's telling the guy you should test your Faraday bags. I'm gonna stop with her because it's getting to be a little bit too much. Ed, you're texting the Hang Seng. You're checking the markets.
No.
Yeah.
My son is texting me.
Gotcha. All right. So listen, I want to go to the chats and say hello to everybody. I'll take you off while you do that, Ed. So I want to thank everybody for positively engaging with us here tonight. The super chats are tremendous, and I appreciate you guys. So Amy's just clarifying with the $5 super chat. I'm sorry. I was explaining there is a record for all your calls, but she only extracted 200 of them and wasn't and wants want the defense to address, not you guys. Gotcha. All right, thank you. So yeah, some have said in the chat that Melanie Little said that. I don't see that happening. Those sirens are not them showing support because, again, like I said, it was the defense up there cross-examining a witness, and that just breaks up the continuity of everything. So I don't see that as them sounding their sirens to break up court testimony. That wouldn't be cool. Mo, thank you for the 5. The moment the scene was left unsecure, the case ends for me. Everything after that's out. Yeah, there's no case here for me. Should have never gone forward. There should never have been a second trial, but we can argue that till the sun comes down. There is a second trial, and it's going on. Michelle says, thank you for the super chat. I feel bad for the underlings on payroll of Canton corruption. They never learned how to be cops. They were groomed to be fixers. Sad. I don't know if it's a small department under 40 members, and that's been said by Lieutenant Gallagher. He said it on his testimony, day 1, 2, or 3, whatever days he testified. But I don't think he said it yesterday. I think it was the day before yesterday. But he said, we like to have 42, but we don't have it. So it's a small rinky-dink police department. I don't think that they've investigated many murders. And I don't think there's a lot going on there. There could be some crime there, but these guys suck. They do not know what they're doing. And Ed, I know you feel the same way about it. These guys are an embarrassment to the men and women who do the job the right way.
Yeah, but it's not just Canton. The Mass State Police should have known how to process that crime scene.
Yeah. Michael Proctor, I mean, it's hard to believe that Michael Proctor, one trooper, could influence a whole group of them to screw things up because of his ties to the McAlberts and all of these unscrupulous jagaloons. Lori Shortlegs, thank you for the 5. It was first said that John died of hypothermia. My question is, could he have been saved if it wasn't freezing outside? I don't know the extent of his injuries of the blunt force trauma. It says on his death certificate, blunt force trauma and hypothermia. So I don't know, Lori. I wish I had the answer to that, but we don't. There's that super chat about the tons of confusion. She cleared it back up. Josh H., as someone who respects law enforcement, it's cases like this that make me side with people who say defund the police. I have to disagree with you on that, because defunding the police hurts you, hurts me, hurts all the good citizens. We need the police, because without police, we would have anarchy. We just have to weed out these bad eggs. There are bad apples amongst some of the really great men and women who do the job day in and day out. So
we also have to ensure they're properly trained and equipped and following international standards.
Right. Red Daughters says, I don't think they knew until this moment how much Proctor threw him under the bus. She's talking about the trooper. I think he was surprised on the stand today. I felt bad for him.
I hope he didn't perjure himself for Proctor.
I hope not. You mentioned that to me before we went live. Carmel, thank you so much, McPartland, for the super sticker. We appreciate you. John O'Keefe's missing socks sends $5 super chat and says, where are John O'Keefe's socks?
That clothing, like the shirt he was wearing, they took it off of him in the ambulance. It was on the floor of the ambulance. Then I did see a photograph of it on the floor in a hospital. Yeah. And then it was in the back of Proctor's car for weeks.
Right. Exactly. The defense should, bring that up because
they brought it up in the last trial. They'll bring it up again.
Yeah. Thank you for the afternoon delight. Thank you, Kimberly, for being here. Kimberly Gutierrez, great to see you. And again, more super chats coming in from Lefant. Every time Yannetti says lead investigator Proctor, this guy throws a fast eye at him. Commonwealth stops trying to make fetch happen. Can't disappear it away. Yeah, can't. Exactly. Rainbow, thank you for becoming a new member. Cuckoo, thank you for the super chat. Bottom of shoe and pics is black, but white at trial. Yeah, there's something funky about the shoes. Something's up with that. Thank you for becoming a channel member. McPartland, thank you so much for that. Karen, thank you for becoming a new member. Cat tracking, not the same shoe. The trim that separates the shoe from the sole is different colors. One in picture is whiter than the other. Copyright is black. I guess we could argue this all day, but I don't think the defense has brought it up. Carrie, thank you for the super love. She says glove stayed on Trooper after he touches. I think now we're all caught up. Let me get down to the bottom, Ed, quick, because Beckfest has been a member for over 21 months, and she's been on with us on some of our members-only live streams. She's a true crime enthusiast. She loves to talk about this stuff, and she sends in a super chat, $10, and says, it's great to see you guys, and I've been praying for your health, DutyRon. Thank you. It's working. Sending all my support. P.S. Justice is deserved for this fallen officer. But the prosecution is not. Yeah.
Is it me, or does anyone else feel like the roles have been flipped here, where the prosecution is actually the defense of the Commonwealth and the officers, and the defense is the prosecutor of the Commonwealth and the officers?
We haven't seen anything like this in a long time. I don't remember.
They got Whitey Bulger's defense attorney prosecuting.
Yeah. TG sends in 9 and says, is Celebrate a controllable tool for law enforcement or an objective tool in criminal investigations? I mean,
controllable. How do you define that? What do you mean controllable?
Yeah.
It has standards that are supposed to be used when to use it and how to use it.
C. Brown, thank you for becoming a member. Blissfulness, thank you for the super sticker. Josh sends in another 5. Why was the shoe found on the road, pulled from the bag at trial today, untied? If John O'Keefe was wearing it, wouldn't it be tied?
Let me ask this. When the first officers and EMS and fire arrived on that scene, there was hardly any snow on the ground. And I believe the meteorologist who testified actually helped the defense.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there was hardly any snow on the ground at that time, because as they said, you could still see grass through some of the snow.
Right.
How come nobody saw broken taillights lying on top of the grass and the snow? How come nobody saw the sneaker?
Hey, did anybody look at the lieutenant from Canton that went with the sergeant back to John O'Keefe's house to do the welfare check with the kids? Did anybody take the picture of that dash cam? It showed Karen Reed's vehicle parked in the driveway. Did anybody zoom into that? Because I was looking, there was snow on both sides, but it looked like pieces were missing as you looked at the back end of it on the passenger side, but you couldn't tell how much was missing. And I tried to stop and zoom that picture in, but it got real blurry and I wasn't able to see anything. Beckfest, thank you again for being in here and a member for so long. It seems like a trial to defend the McCabe's. I have seen 0 so far for even attempting to prove a car accident, let alone Karen's guilt. Shameful. Shame on them. Yeah. DH says she saw that. But it was hard to make out the broken taillight. You could see it, but it was really difficult to see. So Austin Pro Courier, and thank you so much for the 10. Unfortunately, my dad was murdered 30 years ago. I would have been mad as hell if I saw this stuff in his trial. Well, so sorry about
to hear that.
Yeah, 3 decades ago. This is painful. For us, imagine the families. Imagine the O'Keefe families, the cousins, the extended family, his friends, his loved ones, the colleagues that he worked with. Remember, we're not hearing anything from Boston Police Department. There's not even a uniform in the courtroom because Bev doesn't allow it. You can't go in there in uniform. Like if this was a cop's a trial against someone accused of murdering a New York City cop, this courtroom would be flooded with suits, be flooded with blue. And to have her make that ruling that no cops in uniform can come into that courtroom and support, it's offensive. It's offensive. And it was like that in the first trial. Emily Parkinson, thank you for the 5. She says, I think when the rookie looked down and gave that pause, he was realizing he was screwed. I think so, right, Ed? You gleaned that from
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think we did a good job here tonight, an hour and 55. We missed a couple of things on day 10. Lieutenant Paul Gallagher was back on the stand, and from day 10, Ed, really the shocking thing is that he stated on the sworn testimony that he was a gopher for that lieutenant sergeant, that lieutenant commander, and went and picked packages up. My question is, did you pick those packages up while you're on job time? Because if you did that, that's personal business, and that's a big, big no-no. But who knows what they do in Canton. But he basically told the jury that, no, I know that you can't get any video footage because it only goes from his house step to his property line, and then it stops.
Yeah, I'd like to. Well, I don't trust his word. I would like to have seen that. Okay, so they should have gotten the video. And I have the same camera system, the Arlo camera system from my house.
Right.
Okay, and so it picks up when it activates, because it's motion activated. When it activates and records, it also records sound. Okay, and sometimes it doesn't even have to see something in. I mean, it could be a shadow or it could be a loud sound that activates the camera.
Right. You're right. All right, so I think there's the last super chat. Mo, thank you so much for the 2 pieces were missing, but when Jen was last to drive it, but Jen was last to drive it. Okay, so she's saying that the pieces were missing, but Jen was the last to drive it. Appreciate the thoughts. Appreciate everyone's questions. And guys and girls, if you have comments or questions at the end of the live, a great way to continue the conversation is to leave us some comments down below in the comment section. Give us a thumbs up while you're here and like the video. Ed and I are just giving you what any good investigator with investigative skills would be doing in a case like this. And what wasn't done here, we covered tonight in depth. Ed went over it. You see all the things in the background there. That's part of the tools that Ed uses to properly collect evidence from a crime scene. Not what was done here. This rinky-dink operation, and Canton Police Department should be further looked at for. It's a sin that Lieutenant Gallagher was able to run out of that police department with a promotion upon a promotion, and the lieutenant commander is now a deputy chief or something like that, or an assistant chief, and he ran out of there with over $300,000 pension. Well, his last salary, $300,000. So he's got a $200 and some odd $1,000 pension every year, and this guy is known as the biggest clown. That I mean, I just can't even believe what he was gloating and pumping his chest out.
This is the second time he's testified. This is the second time he's testified, and he still thinks he did the right thing. That he was a genius. That he thought out of the box and came up with a novel approach to destroy crime scene.
Yeah, he was very arrogant. Actually, thank you for that comment. It's just an unbelievable set of circumstances, and as this thing goes on, it gets worse and worse and worse. And we're going to continue to follow it. Thank you to the replay viewers, the moderators, the super chatters, the new channel members. We appreciate you, the supporters that support us and share our videos. We love you. We appreciate you. And again, we know that your time is valuable, and there's many people that you can watch and listen. Our opinions are our own. You may not agree with them, and we respect it. So if you have if you have something that you disagree with us with, we're always open to it as long as it's done respectfully, because we would never do it disrespectfully to you. So thank you for being here. Thank you to the new people. We're getting close to 485,000 subscribers. It just keeps growing each day, and we thank you for hitting the subscribe button. Ed and I really, really put our heart and soul into this stuff. And don't forget, we have daytime jobs. We work full-time jobs. We go to work every day, and we give you these, hours that we give you here and there in our spare time. So again, it is what it is. Ed's gonna wear a hole in his chest.
I just got one area over here that's so itchy.
Yeah. So resting bitch face says he, as a retired lieutenant, is making over 300. I think it was 350. Such a disgrace. It's the taxpayers' money. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I'll allow that. It sounds like Judge Bev. I'm doing okay. They found some lesions on my spine. I got it looked at. I've had a lot of back pain. All of that's been corrected. I'm under the care of Memorial Sloan Kettering. So thank you. Ed's been checking in with me every day, as we always do anyways. So yeah, things are good. I thank you guys all for your prayers and thoughts. I'm still fighting. I still have cancer. I have blood cancer. So it's from my World Trade Center exposure. Ed has battled cancer, and he's talked about it on the air from 9/11 exposure. He's prostate and all different kinds of cancers. Ed, skin cancer, just like me. So we've got a lot of things going on, but we're doing the best that we can, and we're here, and we ain't got no quit. So I want to say I'm sending prayers, strength, and positive vibes to John O'Keefe's family, his loved ones, and everyone who cares about him, his supporters, to the Karen Reed supporters as well. Justice needs to be served here, and it's not going to be against her. And for those of you who are friends and former co-workers and other law enforcement that are on the side of that Karen Reed is the perpetrator here in this crime, we still love and respect you. It's just that we feel you got it wrong, and that's our professional opinion on this, and that's what we're sticking to, because as Ed says, the science doesn't lie. The facts do not lie.
Well, even if you think she did it, okay, the fact that in the last trial, the jurors acquitted her of 2 of the 3 charges.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way Judge Bev handled the hung jury without polling, without giving good instructions about putting down the fact that they acquitted it on the form. So based on a technicality and based on her declaring a mistrial without having polled the jury to see, what in fact was going on, were they hung on all the charges or were they hung on one charge? She didn't do any of that. Okay. And she could have very easily. And I've seen it time and time again in New York in the trials here. Okay. She was acquitted on those 2 charges, and the judge and the prosecutor, have the discretion on whether to prosecute or not for the second trial. So based on a technicality that the jury did not write down their acquittal of those 2 charges, they went full steam ahead to prosecute her again on the 3 charges. So whether you believe she did it or she didn't do it, we have this thing in the Constitution called double jeopardy.
Right.
Okay. And if this is not a double jeopardy case, I don't know what is.
Right.
And the fact that they know it now after the fact and are still proceeding with this persecution now, because it's no longer a prosecution, it's a persecution. Okay. Any one of us can be the victim of this.
Right. Yeah.
You, me, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
See, we here at Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we're all about facts, truth, justice, and the victims. Okay? We have no vested interest in Karen Reed other than the fact that we can be her the way they're prosecuting this case.
Amen, brother. Amen. You said it well. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. The video that I showed from Garret is going to be linked in the description. You can go over to his channel, you can watch it. You go over to Melanie Little's. He did a show with her. Both of those shows I recommend. So you can go to Melanie Little's. You can go to Garrett's channel himself. He's got over, I think, 2 odd million subscribers. He's great and a professional as it pertains to dog bites and so forth. All right, guys, on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I wish you guys a good evening. We're going to be watching day 12 tomorrow, and we're going to continue to stay on it. Ed, you're off from work this week, so we're going to we'll have some fresh eyes on it. So it's great to know that you're watching, and maybe Friday forensics. I know, Ed, you got other commitments, but maybe I'll do a late night Friday forensics with you guys, and I'll try to ramp up some guests, and maybe we'll have the cell phone expert come on. Who knows? So thank you, Darth Mac, for the $2. It's the way they do it in Massachusetts. 7. Gary. Wow. All right, guys. Good night from New York. We'll see you soon. Ed, you always have something to say at the end, though.
All right, folks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing your time with us. Almost 2 hours. We really appreciate you. Stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your 6.